Hi there, I am Adem Kirbas. I'm here in Turkey, in Ordu, in my hometown. We are still in the pandemic. I hope you all doing fine. Before I start in today's episode, I wanna say something which is important, and this is what we left out: environment. In I think in the millennial age, environment is probably the most important issue. I don't say it's not that I would disagree or not, but I think because it is so important, I some sort of left it out in the beginning, but nevertheless it is important, and it is as well as interesting because there is this is something probably only Europeans see and understand, that there is a whole different approach to in the environment in the West, especially between Europeans and Americans. In Europe, as you know, is the Green Party is very strong. They had a huge influence on the issue of environment, especially in the 90s. This is the rise of the Green Party around the world. This is the party which had environment as its sole or one of the key policy programs next to feminism, and their aim was against nuclear reactors and so on. However, and the difference between Europe and America is interesting, because in Europe, warming, global warming deniers, they think a bit different, or in general, Americans think different about the environment, whereas in Europe, people associate more with their environment, because partially because the Europeans consider themselves as native to the soil, as part of the soil, and that's why they have a different relationship to the soil, whereas Americans, they rather mm, they rather came from Europe. And if you see the society, the movements of the society in America, and the American society is very, you want to say agile. It is, for example, very common for an American to I don't know, uh, grow up in Wyoming, go to the university in New York, and then settle down somewhere in Florida or LA, however. And so Americans are way more mobile than Europeans, and this has led to a different approach, a different understanding of the environment. Whereas Europeans, they are not that mobile, as well as they consider themselves as natives. They have a stronger bond to the environment, to the ground and soil. This is a very interesting topic, and we will talk about it. It is an important issue of the millennial age, because the rise of the Green Party was or had was actually against technology technological development, against nuclear reactors, and as well as the role model the Green Party provides, so eating healthy and so on. So it had indeed influence, and we will talk about it in due time. However, today I want to talk about the last uh, male genders. This is Male Nostalgy. I want to repeat, this is those three male genders I presented. These are not all of them, but they are, you could say, dominating in a society, and but and again I will try to give some background information, which is very important to understand this male nostalgia. This is so it is partially, or people might assume that this was a derogatory term, but this is not the case. It is we need to understand this the view as well. However, I mean, within the technological age, this is what we saw and talked about it, especially with the rise of the personal computer as well as with the internet. One thing is different to all previous ages of human history, and this is that technological development happens very fast. It is almost, uh, if you want, warp speed. It is. I mean, you somehow lose the oversight. I give an example. For in my youth, I learned or I talked about it as well. So in my youth, we spent a lot of time, for example, on computer programs and so on, and then this all became obsolete and so on. And with this new technological developments, a new market has emerged, and it's not enough anymore to be some sort of basically skilled, and you could say this is pretty much the end of the craftsmanship as we know it. I will talk about this shortly. But however, uh, that this fast pace of course created people who cannot keep up, and this is you cannot always blame them for this, because I mean it is not always the case, because but for example in the US, poverty is mostly something you inherit. This is not true for Europe. In Europe, even though you may not be very fond of the welfare state, the welfare state has indeed some issues. I mean, we can, and I will talk about this in a later episode, especially of the Austrian welfare state, what's so problematic of this. But nevertheless, in Europe, you can see more or less, it's not true entirely, but more or less, you do not inherit the poverty of your parents. There's free access to schools and so on. But however, in general, school has changed. Um, so how you learn, how you present yourself as well, and as well as more and more skills are being demanded from you. So this meant that this new technological age with its fast development, and this is never ending, is in a way exhausting, and it's and that many who lose out, they get frustrated. This is in the sociological term of uh, Modernisierungsverlierer in German, called Modernisierungsverlierer, and this means that those people who lost out through modernization, who could not keep up this technological development, some in a way did not pick up everyone to the think of the American Rust Belt once. This was the pride of America. This was once called the industrial belt, and now it all got rusty. Now the hubs, or the economical hubs, are rather around LA and so on. So there's change. People could not keep up, or in the Midwest, how many towns and homes are abandoned because you want to say, or can say, change moved on, but people could not, because of the simple um, reason. In the past, it was, especially in the past, was when you were a manufacturer, it was uh, in a way easier, because manufacturing in those big companies, they would partially educate and help to grow their own personnel. Many companies did this. They did not trust in the universities, or in the universities and colleges, or the colleges and so on. They were not enough in the past. Those big companies, they would put a lot of emphasis in in really bringing about new employees, raising new employees, and teaching them. I mean, um, there are a lot of examples, but this then changed. So those companies, they do not invest this anymore, and it is not only possible anymore, because now the average IT coder, or the average IT specialist or expert needs to have at least a couple of years, not to mention decades of knowledge and education. I mean, of course, there are exceptions. I mean, everyone knows the life story of Mark Zuckerberg, as well as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. Nevertheless, they are the exception. These people were and are great CEOs. Nevertheless, their workforce assumably will consist of highly skilled and highly educated people, and for normal people, you cannot keep up anymore, and this, of course, then brings about a lot of people who then lose out. They are being considered, in German, they they are being called losers, Verlierer, Modernisierungsverlierer. Yeah, maybe they are not losers or suckers in that sense. Now it is really tough to keep up, and it is not easy, and especially if you have to carry the burden of your family, or of your parents as well. Then it is very difficult, because one change is significant, and this means if you are if your parents are not well educated, if your parents, for example, did not attend college or university or any higher education, then it is you are most likely to follow their footsteps, and so on. So you inherit a lot from your parents, not only as well as your opportunities, and it is for that matter rare to overcome this. However, and then in addition to that, the new male role changed. We talked about this feminism question, this male gender, that man would be dominant, that man would or that women do not need man, the emancipated woman, even you could say in a way, is forced to show herself that she can accomplish anything without man. This has become some sort of important important self-understanding for women, and so on. And one key, and this is, I think, very important thing to understand with male nostalgy,